6:31, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll all join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Strong. Here. Gonzalez.
Present.
Stransky.
Yes.
Connie.
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez.
Present. It's good to be back in person. The hearing for the Urban Forestry Management Plan that was scheduled for tonight's meeting is postponed until the City Council's November 9th meeting. The postponement is due to the unavailability of Dusty Dooley, Community Development Director. Please contact Mr. Dooley for any information regarding the plan. All right, and with that, we're going to move to public communication. The City Council welcomes participation in its meetings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person so that everyone has an opportunity to address the council, to expedite matters and avoid repetition. Whenever a group or persons wishes to address the council on the same subject matter, the mayor may request the group appoints a spokesperson. These items are limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council, which are not on the posted agenda. Public criticism of the City Council, commissions, boards, and agencies will not be prohibited, and the City Council can take no action. Do we have anybody this evening that would like to address us? This would be for items that are not on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. My name is Jerry Ward, Solid Waste to Willits. I know I have an item coming up, but I want to let the council know that we are picking up weekly our green waste. We started a couple weeks ago. We'll go through probably the month of November, see how it goes. If we need to go into December, we will. But I wanted to let the public know that we'll be doing that like we did last year. So if there's any concerns or questions about it, they can call our office, and if they do need special pickups, we can accommodate that too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to address us? Okay. Dolores, we don't have anybody on the computer or anything this time, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. All right, I'm going to close public communication then and move on to the public matters, which is item 3A, Jerry Ward of Solid Waste of Willits. To discuss the feasibility of providing city residents with an annual collection service of bulk items. So, yep, if you would take the podium, please. Thank you.
Again, Jerry Ward, Solid Waste to Willits. I think Greta came to me and asked about having an annual cleanup. In the past, years ago, Larry might remember, we've talked a lot about it over the years. We were using debris boxes throughout the city for people to bring material and put them in debris boxes, and we'd haul it down to the dump. At that particular time at the Ukiah landfill. Since then, we've had our own transfer stations, so I would encourage that we probably, if we do something like that in the future, next year, however the council wishes, we could have some type of way of having city residents come in and dispose of their material right at the transfer station. I do want to tell you that California, Clean California, I think the governor signed it. They're going to have money available through Caltrans to do a lot of cleanups. We've done 2 cleanups so far. We did one in Koala at our South Coast transfer station. For the day, people could bring up to unlimited amount of bulky items, appliances, tires, mattresses. I believe we had that at South Coast for free of charge. Of course, we would then quantify what the customer brought in, send a bill to Caltrans, and then they would pay it. We had another large cleanup in Covelo about 3-4 weeks ago, where it wasn't just one day, it was a whole week. And we took out 7 trailer loads of garbage or bulky waste out of Covelo, 7 loads of large trailer loads of metal, and I think we had 2 trailer loads of tires. And Covelo, it made a dent, but it still could use some help. But I believe we're scheduled for next year to do it at Laytonville, Albion, Casper, and I believe Willits and Ukiah. So there is that program coming up, but if the council wishes to do something separately, those programs are subsidized by the state, but the one I would be providing for the city would be, come out of our pocket because we would be providing it free of charge, or it'd be somewhat included in the rate. So depending on what the pleasure as a council, we would like to entertain that. If you want to have a meeting with the city manager, we can come up with a plan, however you want to do it. Do you want to do it once a year, twice a year? How we would then determine a city residents versus a county residents, we could probably use our billing card or billing statement showing when they do come in that they're a city resident. So we could keep that separate. Brook Trails, we have a similar thing in Brook Trails. We don't offer green waste collection services up there by the truck, but a Brook Trails customer can bring down up to 2 cubic yards of green waste. There's not a lot of green up there, but they can bring down their lawn waste, and it's free of charge. All they do is bring a billing card too to show that they're a Brook Trails resident. So anyway, if that's an interest, I don't know what, Greta, you got any more you wanted to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to let the council know the reason that I approached Jerry about this is because I've heard from several residents that dump fees are prohibitive, and conversations about illegal dumping around the county seem to come back to not having an ability to take things to the dump. And so since Jerry was so gracious to work with us on the Brook Trails cleanup, I approached him about the potential of free dump days for Willits residents. One of the things that I have heard from community members is they worry about if you had, for instance, a day like they did in Covelo, there would be a long line, more than you can imagine, long. People would show up. A couple of residents mentioned the idea of possible vouchers, maybe 1 a year or 2 a year, where they could come and they would have to show proof of residence and their, service with you, and they'd be able to bring bulk items to you at no charge.
Okay.
So I don't know if that works better for you, then it might be easier to manage.
It was a sort of a mess. There were people there at 4 o'clock in the morning in Covelo trying to get in the front of the line, and it was crazy. But I don't really anticipate that much from Willits because Covelo has a lot more bulky item waste in Covelo than I see here in the city limits.
And hopefully in city limits, people don't have quite the space to spread out and accumulate as
right,
they do in the rural areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do according to the requirements under the Caltrans one, they couldn't bring household garbage, it was just bulky items. Okay. In the case of Willits, we can take appliances, we can take tires, we can take mattresses, we can take electronics, and we'll take then the bulky waste of just junk. But if we can get away from the household, or the garbage part of it, that would be helpful.
One thing that also came up with conversations with residents was some folks don't have transportation that they could, don't have a truck
right.
or a trailer where they could bring large items like an old couch, something like that. Is there a potential in the future that we could work out something where they could have curbside pickup of
well, we could. That gets to be a little bit more difficult because we don't have the type of equipment either unless it's a debris box, because all our automated trucks, you can't unload into the trucks. They're pretty high. I've seen it in other cities, and it's ugly what people put out the curb too. And then you got a mess, and then you've got people going through their material, scattering it and whatnot. So I would hope that maybe we could get some volunteers throughout the community to maybe lend a pickup. We could do a few. We do have pickups, but again, I don't know what's going to be the requirement for it. So we just like the volunteers that went up to Brook Trails to do that cleanup. A lot of people have trailers now, and I'm sure they might be able to utilize those. So, I don't have all the details tonight and how we can structure it, but Solid Waste of Willits is interested in providing something. A cleaner town is a better reflection on us.
Well, I, for one, would be interested in some sort of coordinated program. I see a lot of times in town where we have people put out free, when really it's just junk. And then it sits there, and sometimes our public works has to deal with it. Sometimes people get the point and they finally get rid of it, but it sits out for a while, especially when the weather changes. So if there was an opportunity for people to get rid of those bulky items, I think it'd be great.
Thank you for your willingness to entertain this idea.
Well, we used to do it before, it just never came up. We used to have mandatory garbage collection here in the city too, for several years, so that helped a little bit, but
I really like the green bins being picked up each for a month straight. That's
Yeah.
a really good idea.
and we'll do it in through December if need be. Just it depends on the rain, if we can knock the leaves down.
Councilmember Strong, do you want to?
No, I agree with, I'm very pleased to have the green bins being picked up weekly, and I'm really looking forward to having, better bulky item ways to, serve our community.
I don't know how MSWA, Mendocino Solid Waste Management Authority, would play into it, but as maybe Greta remembers that there isn't anybody at the helm right now, and they did do a lot of illegal dumping and whatnot, but it hasn't been in a long time, so maybe MSWA could be a part of this in the future too, to help out.
All right, so maybe you could reach out and set up a meeting with Brian to
Okay.
explore what the cost would be. I'd be curious, for communities like Covelo or Laytonville or other places that you've done it, what was the cost?
Well, just what are the tipping rates were, but this one would be a free one, and
It'd be free to the consumer, but there would have to be some kind of offset.
well,
And some
I'm willing to do
fashion.
one time, at least one time a year, and what the rates we're getting. We're unfortunately going to see me in another month or so on a rate adjustments for January, and they're not going to be fun, even though you did give us a little bit of a raise for fuel. Cost of living was 8.3%, so it's going to be unfortunately high. Doesn't mean that we're going to have extra money to do it. It's just I felt like maybe this is a time to bring a proposal before. Since Greta brought it up too, I thought it'd be a good idea. But the California Caltrans one will be no charge. I mean, that to the customer as well. That's paid for by the state of California.
Okay. If you have any kind of numbers though that you could provide
Okay.
city managers, just so we have a general idea of
Sure.
what it costs. And then going back to the idea about the voucher, you could put it in with the utility bill so that it only goes to city residents if it's a city-wide thing, unless of course the county wants to get on board and get brick trails and so on and so forth. And then we could register, you could have a volunteer group, and if you need curbside, then the volunteer group, you could register for it, and the volunteer group could help, whether it's the Boy Scouts or the Rotary, or the Lions Club, one of the other civic groups.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I'll give it Brian anyway, and we could talk about it.
that sounds good.
Thank you. It's good to be
All right.
back in the room.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
Larry knows how many hours I've been in this room over the years. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Before you take off, though, Jerry, if you could stay for one moment, is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this agenda item? Okay, having heard none, thank you. Have a wonderful night. All right, we have no ordinances before us to enact this evening. There are no consent calendar items. There are no monthly activity reports. So moving on quickly to item number 7, commissions, agencies, and authorities. We have one order of business before us, item 7A, which is discussion and possible action on conditional use permit number UM 16-01/22 for Lizzie's LLC John's Place Bar. The petitioner seeks approval to expand an existing full-service bar by 600 square feet for a proposed combined footprint of 1,749 square feet. The purpose of this addition is to accommodate space for an ADA accessible restroom, additional occupancy, pool tables, darts, and arcade games. The bar will continue to operate between the hours of 9 a.m. and 2 a.m. each day. Do we have a staff member that would like to comment?
To present the project?
To present the project, yes.
And I do have a PowerPoint
Wonderful. Are you able to step up to the?
Rather bring the mic to me.
Well, we do have the at-home viewers as well, so if you could.
If you insist. All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, city manager. Hello. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. It's great to see a full house and to see you all in person. As soon as we get the PowerPoint up, we'll get started. All right, so tonight we're going to be discussing the proposed use permit modification number UM 160122 for John's Place expansion. Next slide, please. The project site exists at 377 South Main Street, just northeast of the intersection of East San Francisco Avenue and South Main. We have East San Fran on the south boundary, South Main on the west. On the eastern side, we have commercial structures, and on the northern parcel boundary we have Broadus Creek, which is a Class 1 watercourse flowing along that boundary, and past Broadus Creek we have the California Street, neighborhood. The project is improved with a total of 14,000 square feet of commercial structures divided among 11 units, all with different uses, all commercial and residential. There's office space, retail space, restaurant use, all on that project vicinity. Next slide, please. The project is zoned C1, community commercial, and as you can see behind Brian's head there, all the other parcels are also zoned C1 on the eastern, southern, and western parcel boundaries. In the blue designation on the screen, you can see R1 zoning district, which is residential single family. And in the western parcel boundary vicinity, we have R3 multiple family residence in that McKinley Street neighborhood. Next slide, please. So, this is wobbly. We've had John's Place come through the Planning Commission doors, probably in this chambers, several times in the past 9 years. In 2015, that's when that began, when John's Place was operating at 151 North Main Street. In May 2016, Planning Commission approved the proposal to operate John's Place, a 765 square foot full service bar at the location it currently resides at 377 South Main. At that time, conditions were imposed upon the project to mitigate noise complaints, land use and compatibility concerns, policing and safety concerns. About a month after that project was approved, John's Place came back in for a modification to expand the bar by 384 square feet. And all of the conditions from the original use permit were adopted into that modification and deemed necessary to mitigate all potential concerns. Next slide, please. So now under new management, John's Place is proposing another modification to the original use permit to expand the existing 1,149 square foot full service bar by 600 square feet for a total of 1,749 square feet. Next slide, please. This, I imagine it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but this is the proposed floor plan of both the existing floor space on the right and then the proposed addition on the left. Tried to make it as big as I could. Next slide, please. This was a secondary detail provided by the application showing just the proposed addition. And the purpose of this expansion is to accommodate space for an additional ADA restroom and space for pool tables, darts, arcade games, and hopefully attracting a more diverse crowd. Next slide, please. So as part of the use permit procedures, Planning Department staff performed extensive review regarding land use compatibility in the vicinity, noise, policing staff, and safety protocol. As we can see by the map, John's Place falls within a quarter mile of 3 other places that have an ABC license to distribute alcohol, spirits, or wine. There's Digger's Bar, Village Market and Liquor, and Mariposa Market. Digger's Bar has the same ABC license that offers on-site consumption of spirit and liquors. We also have, the nearest off-site residence is in that California Street neighborhood, 200 feet north of the project site. And approximately 250 feet southeast of the project site exists Redwood Creek Facility, which is a rehabilitation center or residential care facility for adults that are in need of daily care assistance. So we have proportionate use of residential use and commercial use. Next slide, please. So, as with any mixed-use neighborhood, noise generation is a key concern for us to mitigate, and it requires a lot of conditions in some cases, as the original use permit 1601 did. Some of these conditions are listed on the screen. Not all of them are provided in this PowerPoint presentation, but if you would like to look at the full list, it is provided in the staff report. Some of these conditions involve placing limitations on the hours of operation. The bar is only allowed to operate between 9 a.m. and 2 a.m. each day. And the windows and doors shall remain shut in order to minimize the noise impacts escaping from the project site. Also, hours of amplified music will be limited to the hours of 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. There's also a condition that states the applicant will provide a list of voluntary measures so should verified noise complaints be received by either the Community Development Department or the Police Department. Should Police Department or Community Development Department receive any additional complaints of noise that cannot be modified, it is stated in the conditions of approval that we can tag on additional conditions to rectify that situation. Next slide, please. So with use permit 1601, the original use permit, the police department recommended several mitigation measures to deter both illegal activities and minimize the number of calls that would potentially be created by establishment of a bar. And all of these conditions, just like the noise conditions, have been adopted into this use permit modification. No additional conditions at this time have been deemed necessary in order to mitigate potential noise impacts and police concerns. And to staff's knowledge at this time, there have been no code enforcement complaints regarding John's Place. There have been no noise complaints filed to the Community Development Department. And per staff knowledge, and after checking in with the police department, there have been no major issues of concern coming from the police department. So at this point in time, to staff knowledge, they're in good standing as far as policy goes and procedures, and they're in good standing with their original use permit 1601. Next slide, please. So public noticing. The notice of public hearing was sent out on October 13th, 2022 to all properties within the 300-foot vicinity. 53 of those parcels fell in that sphere, but some of the parcels were owned by the same owner, so only 39 letters were sent out to the owner's physical addresses. And we received no letters back. I believe only one bounced back for an improper address. And we only received 2 public comments via email, both requesting from the same property to shared split owners, requesting conditions imposed upon noise and live music events. So not necessarily a nay, but they wish to impose conditions. Staff determined that those conditions were already, that they could adequately be addressed by the recommended conditions for approval. And I did respond to those comments as well. Next slide, please. So at this time, city staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the request for use permit modification number 1601 22 based on the following findings provided in the staff report and the recommended conditions of approval and/or any other conditions composed during deliberations. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to address the council?
Good evening. My name is Craig Stevens, and I, along with my wife Melissa, are the new owners of John's Place. We are asking for your permission to expand our business in order to provide extra space for pool tables, games, and more space for our patrons. We will continue to provide a fun, safe environment and stay within the guidelines of all involved agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any clarifying questions from council before I open it up for public comment?
I just wanted to ask if, when you, Taylor, when you spoke to the couple that both put in comments, were they, did they accept the 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Limit on live music and or do they still have their same concern?
So I responded to the comment saying that they were to be considered and their comment was important. However, I believe that though the staff report was made publicly available, I'm not certain that they had seen that comment. It didn't come up and I didn't respond directly to that condition.
Okay. Any other?
Kind of want to hear from the public.
Okay. So we'll open it up to the public. If you would like to address the council, you have 3 minutes. Feel free to just step up to the podium and we'd love to hear your name. Anybody from the public?
Come on, Obi.
Can I have 2 minutes to get up? Yeah, you know, when you read the report and stuff, you know, adding 600 square feet sounds like a huge thing. It's smaller than this room. And these young people are trying to do a business, and they're trying to make it a good business and clean it all up and let it be something, you know, that the town could be proud of. And I just don't want to see things get in the way that don't really matter. And if there's not that many complaints, then what's the problem? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
I'm Leah Oberdorf, and I would strongly hope that the council will see that this is a viable business and will pass this use permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Welcome.
my name's Marcia Kennedy, and I grew up in Ukiah and Red Valley area, but we were here in Willits quite often. My father used to work at the shake mill here back when my mother was pregnant with me, and I'm in my mid-60s. And when Dan took over the bar, him and my father were friends. And my parents used to go and dance with him and have a good time on the weekend and everything, you know. And we grew up going in there. There was food there. You could bring your kids into a certain part and have something to eat. And we had sodas because they always had Shirley Temples and Roy Rogers with lots of cherries in it, which is great. And since growing up and being in my 40s, actually, from 40 on up, I worked at John's Place a couple of times. I'm not really much of a drinker. I might have a couple of drinks a year. I drink coffee more than anything. I am a coffee drinker. And once in a while I'll have a soda, but it's coffee, 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 and a little water. And they were always very compliant with having coffee for me if I wanted it. They didn't require me to drink my alcohol in order to have a good time and dance. Oh my God, I love dancing there when the dance floor was open and the music and everything. And needless to say, I love the little bar, Little John's Place, but it needs to be a little bigger. It needs more room to expand. It's so tiny now, and they do the best that they can. They're wonderful, and people that run it are wonderful, and they're nice, and they're polite, and they're helpful and thoughtful. But I do believe that it needs to expand more than it is right now, so that they can grow, just like the other businesses here in town. Everybody wants to grow. And I think it's only the right thing to do, because that business, John's Bar, has been around since before most of us existed. Okay? So, anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last call for public comment on this item. All right, we'll bring it back up to the council and for discussion or entertain a motion.
I would like to say that I would like to see it expand also. I think that it's a worthwhile business, and I've been around when John was on Main Street and by the railroad tracks, and it's not my piece of doing, but I really like Dan Chesser, and I think that he was a really nice gentleman, and I worked with him out at the mill a long time. But I agree. I think with the people that I think that you need to expand, and you have my go for it.
Yeah, I obviously, in my prior career, dealt with John's Place over here on Commercial Street, and not always the best place, I'll be honest with you. But its current location and current size and what you're proposing, after conversing with Taylor, that it looks like the mitigation measures that are in place looks like everybody can work with, and it sounds like you've been complying so far, so I would support it at this point.
I agree with that. I think the proposed mitigations are very appropriate and adequate. So I'd like to move approval based on the staff, with the staff report.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Can I
second.
make one comment?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say too that, Obi, you mentioned, what's the problem? And I don't think there is a problem. I think that the reason the staff report is so thorough is so that we can make sure that everyone from the community is aware of what's happening, has a chance to weigh in, but it's no indication that this is a bad thing in any way. So it's just the process that we all need to go through to make sure that everyone has a say. And personally, as a small business owner, I just want to say kudos to you for working to expand your business. Thank you for investing in our community, and I wish you many years of good business.
Yeah, I think it's important that we haven't had any complaints. You're a local business, you're in the right area, concerns were addressed prior to opening, and you're just simply wanting to expand, and it seems very logical and thorough. So we have a motion and a second, and if there's no further comment, then I'll call for the vote.
Councilmember Strong?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Connie?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes. So the motion carries. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yes. Good luck.
All right, our next order of business is department monthly reports in the packet. There's some information, and we'll start with the airport.
One more item before that.
There's one more item.
City Manager.
You're ahead of us.
Oh, I did. Brian's not in the room. Brian, I forgot you were there.
As he looks over your shoulder. That was good.
I can't see him, so. Okay, he's looking over my shoulder. All right, Brian, our city manager, Brian Bender, I'm gonna turn it over to him for his verbal report and status of the swimming pool.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and council members.
Can we turn the volume?
I apologize for my attendance virtually here, but I'm attending the Municipal Management Association of Northern California's annual conference in Monterey. It's been a good first day. Learned a lot about rural economic development opportunities, as well as law enforcement updates and revisions to programs and protocols for local law enforcement agencies, and also have been reached out by their board members to increase participation in Mendo and Lake County. So that's something we're going to take back to my counterparts in Mendo County here, and there are 2 in Lake County. So that was good. Also want to identify and shout out Ms. Perry's activities on this effort, this application. She put a lot of effort into it. I do need to call her out that the PowerPoint seemed to be in a little bit sooner in the timeline, but we'll get there. Creates a lot of hardship for other staff members, but that's all good. The other item I want to bring up for clarification is that it was identified early in the meeting that the urban forestry management plan was not going to be discussed tonight. It was not on the agenda, so we didn't need to do a formal continuation, but through the city's policies, I can make a determination that it was clear to postpone for another meeting due to our scheduling conflict with the community development director, Dusty Dooley. So any questions on that item? I know that council is anxious to see that come forward. I know there's a lot of public interest in that matter, and November 9th that will be staged, and hopefully we have a good number of public participants who want to listen and hear about what the city's going to do for urban forestry measures, so that's good. The one item I do want to present tonight is an item that has generated a lot of interest over the last week or 2 or 3, and that is the swimming pool. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to clarify. The pool is not a city facility. It was a facility that was constructed by the city, initiated by the city back in the early 60s. And at that time, the city entered into agreement with the school district. Basically, we oversaw the construction, and then we handed over the facility back to the school district for their general oversight, management, and operations. Lately, the city has been operating the pool for the summer months to accommodate public usage during the summer and to have swim lessons for kids and swim aerobics and just general swim, open swim for the general public. And that program or that arrangement still stands. And what we would like to do now that there's a new school superintendent, Mark Beebe, essentially my counterpart, like to do is extend an invite so we can look at that arrangement. There is some discrepancy on what is the terms. There was a revised agreement that was put into place back in 2017 between the 2 entities that is out of context with the original agreement that was modified several times since the 60s. We do at the city recognize that the community deserves to have a pool and swim facilities, and we want to accommodate that. And in turn, that is going to require us to work with the school district and have them work with us to put a better agreement in place that we can accommodate as many of the needs for the public for swim lessons and open swim, and potentially maybe extend that out beyond the summer months. But those are things that we still need to consider.
Okay. Is that the end of your report?
Yes, I was trying to keep it short on any other items, knowing that I was going to do this virtually, and it's bad enough you people got to listen to me when I'm in the room. I don't think you want to listen to me virtually. So on that, I will sign off.
All right, any follow-up questions? No. Okay, no follow-up questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 9, department recommendations, action items. We have adopt a resolution accepting the construction completion of the Blosser Lane Rehabilitation Project project number 2022-02, and authorize the filing of the notice of completion. Representing staff member will be Andrea Trincato, the project manager.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. I'm Andrea Trincato, project manager for the City of Willits. And I am presenting a resolution to accept the construction completion of Blosser Lane Rehabilitation Project and authorize staff to file a notice of completion for Blosser Lane. I have prepared a short presentation to share some of the improvements with council. Okay, so I prepared some before and after photos. So this first page is an aerial that was taken, and it's an aerial comparing the before and after. And while she notes, she's loading that, I just wanted to note that there is a small typo under the summary section. It's the total amount of the construction cost, and that is correctly reported under the fiscal impact. It's off by $1 or so under the summary, but the actual amount is $1,059,142.51. Okay, so these are some just before and after pictures just to show the improvements to Blosser Lane. This is an aerial showing before and after, so you can see the significant facelift to the street. And you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, the improvements included new curb gutter and sidewalk on the entire eastern side of the street and a portion of the west side. New enhanced pedestrian crossings at Blosser Lane Elementary School. Full depth reconstruction of the roadway with 12 inches of base and 5 inches of asphalt. Replacement of 87 feet of storm drain and 2 new drainage structures. A new sewer lateral and clean out, installation of 12 new street trees with irrigation, 2 new water services for irrigation to future tree plantings on the west side of the street in the ditches there, a new traffic calming chicane between Robert Lane and Blosser Lane Elementary School, and signage, striping, and pavement markings were also upgraded to enhance safety. Next slide, please. So,
could you explain what a chicane is?
A chicane is it's basically an obstruction, something that forces traffic in another direction to wiggle around an obstacle and slow traffic down.
It's a term used in road racing too, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that one, but
Brian will tell you.
I'll check it out at Laguna Seca for you.
Learn something every day. These are a few photos of the project area before, and you can see the road, the pavement condition was severely alligatored. This project was needed for some time. There was areas of the road that were sinking, and that's why it deserved the full depth reclamation and reconstruction. So we really had to tear the street out and build it back up. And anyhow, we can go to the next slide. And this is, so that previous one was looking south from the northern section of the project area. And this is on the southern limit. So the image on the left is facing north from the city limits at the very south end of the project. And that's the school to the right. And then the other image on the right is right next to Blosser Lane School, looking north. Next slide, please. And this is some of the images from the grinding activities. So this is right when they were getting started, the first run of grinding right in front of the school. You can see that that first section being removed. And then the image to the right is shows that second section they had to go through with 2 passes. And they removed 17 inches of roadway and then built it back with the 12 inches of base and 5 inches of asphalt. Next slide, please. And this is the chicane under construction. They had just poured the colored concrete and they hadn't quite stamped it yet. And on the right, the first lift of paving was put down, and you can see the base is compacted there. Next slide, please. And this is the chicane just after paving and striping. That's the image on the left, and the one on the right is looking north from the entrance to the school, and you can see the improvements to the crosswalks there. Next slide, please. And this is also facing north from the school entrance, and then the right side is facing south from the north end of the project. And this is the completed project. So they have, you know, these were taken after they were done with construction. Next slide, please. All right, and this is, we've got sidewalk improvements on the east side. Unfortunately, I didn't get a great picture from the previous conditions of the sidewalk, but basically the sidewalk was about 5 feet of asphalt. It was an asphalt sidewalk, the whole side of, on the eastern side of the roadway. So that was improved with a ADA compliant pedestrian pathway. And you can see some of the trees that were planted. Those are Chinese pistache, and there's 12 of them. And then the chicane completed with its signage, and that wraps up the picture. So we can just leave it there with the pictures. And I just wanted to say that, you know, this project was needed for many years. Boudelier Construction worked very hard to complete the construction during the summer months to avoid impacts to the school. We had a small amount of stuff that needed to happen right at the beginning of school, and I just wanted to say that staff thanks the community, businesses, and Blosser Lane Elementary School for its patience during construction. With that, staff requests approval of the resolution accepting construction completion and filing of the notice of completion.
I think it was a long time coming, and it really did a nice job. Boudelier did a nice job on it. Was anybody there the first day when people started going past whatever the divider was in the center? Was that any hassle to anybody?
I did not observe any hassle. We actually had a few trucks run through it, and they didn't appear to have any issues. And we also saw a semi go through there. And during the design process, we had truck turning movements modeled through the chicane to ensure that it was going to.
I think to calm down because before we had this, it went pretty fast through there, and we needed something like that. And I took a tour through there, and I was very pleased with it. I thought it was very nice, and sorry that it was this long coming. Thank you.
Two questions. One is, does the resolution reflect the discrepancy that you mentioned earlier?
The resolution should have the correct amount.
Okay, and then number two, the stamped concrete, how long will that last in that color?
I believe it'll last the life of the
concrete?
project. It's actually colored concrete.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, it may fade over time with the sun, but.
Oh, okay.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just wanted to point out, since I don't think you said it, but for any public or press who are listening, the city budgeted $1.4 million for this project, and it came in under budget at just over $1 million. So, well done. Thank you.
Councilmember Strong, any comments?
No, I'm happy with
No, awesome. I'm very happy with the project. The first time I drove through there, I was a little surprised at how much it really did restrict the speed, which was nice, because there's a school there, and it was good to see the speed limit. Much easier to observe when there are obstacles in your way. So, all right. Anybody from the public have any questions? No.
And I would like to move the staff recommendation and move that we accept the project.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment?
Can you make sure to pass on thanks to Jeremy? I will. I know this was a pet project of his, and it's well done.
Thank you.
All right, call for the vote.
Councilmember Strong?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Stransky?
Yes.
Carney?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes. All right, the motion carries. Now, we'll move on to our department monthly reports. And Kathy, would you like to report on the airport?
I don't have anything other.
Nothing additional?
Thank you, though.
All right. Do we have anything from community development? Dusty's not here this evening. Oh, okay. There is a written report included in the agenda packet. Anything additional from engineering?
I just quickly wanted to, should I come up to the podium?
If you want to add something, yeah.
I just quickly wanted to report out that construction on the groundwater project was completed today, and so the notice of completion will be forthcoming.
I had a comment really on the engineering report. I noticed that we saved $116,700 in the last fiscal year from having purchased the solar array at the water plant, and I'm really pleased with that. So, and I hope that spurs some interest in doing some more solar projects, because it really does save us not only money, but it saves fossil fuel use. So,
I wanted to second that excitement, and I also wanted to say thank you for circling back to that, because a lot of times in the staff reports we hear about things that are happening, but we don't always hear the follow-up, and so I really appreciate you bringing that back and reminding us that that was a successful project and that it's saving the community money, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to make sure to report on that annually until we realize that return on our investment.
Excellent. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Stransky has a question.
The PG&E upgrade on the Elias well, it's all done?
It is. It was completed on Monday, along with the customer side electrical improvements.
So it's all ready to go?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to comment on the engineering theme as well. Yes, Budalia did an excellent job on the Blosser Lane project, but I also want to call out two partners, Laco and Associates and SHN. They provided some great expertise and oversight on that project, also under the guidance of City Engineer Rod Wilburn. So just want to call those out as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Manuel and Finance.
Nothing new except for our audit has officially started. We're receiving already RFP proposals from 3 different organizations right now for accounting software.
Great. All right. Are you here to represent the police department?
I am. So I just had to ask if I need to read this verbatim, but apparently it's just updates from what's written down here. Our new patrol officer is patrolling solo. He's been on solo for about 2-3 weeks now. We had a new hire who's just started. He's no longer in the background process. He did start. He's just finished his 2nd week on field training. Doing an excellent job. Again, you guys know about Sergeant Brady. Unfortunately, the police cadet position we were looking to fill that did not pan out. So that is something we're going to still consider looking into. We have, I think, been pending interviews for a CSO position and I believe a dispatcher position. I think we're looking to set over this next week. That was we're talking with Brittany as far as we can start something next week for one each of those positions. And the other thing I wanted to point out is we just had our the newest sergeant and one of the officers kind of take on and start up an Instagram page for the department to continue with community outreach. Just another form to get the message out and just put us out there. Hopefully that'll build out and that'll be some point of interest for people to take a look at and get the message out.
All right, thank you. Public Works.
No updates for Public Works. Kim wasn't able to make it tonight, but he had no updates to report.
Can I make a comment?
You can.
I just wanted to say Public Works is just doing great these days. Everything looks fantastic. So much extra effort went into making town look great for hometown celebration. It was really noticed by the community, and I've heard a lot of good things. So please extend sincere thanks to them. Working very hard, and it shows.
Jerry's next.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say, again, shout out the merry-go-round, the comments on that. I know it's something small, but it's something that affects a lot of little people in town, and so.
Our small constituents, right?
So I hear from folks about those sort of things, so.
It got tested 20 weeks ago. Had a whole school bus on there.
Oh.
I wish I would have got a picture.
Oh, okay, good.
My thing is that did all the stumps get ground and down?
Yes.
Okay. That was it for mine, and I didn't, where was it on Highway 20?
In the park. There were
In the
a couple
park?
Trees, yeah. They were cut down a couple of years ago, and we just got the stump granted.
So they're gonna plant lawn over, or grass over?
I'm not sure on that yet.
Okay, thank you.
They're filled in with dirt, backfilled with dirt.
Thank you.
All right, utilities?
I really don't have much to update on that, besides we actually gained about 9 acre-feet in our reservoir from that kind of crazy little thing we had last month. So,
Nice.
That's pretty rare. We would go the other way. And if you guys have any questions.
Scott, do you want to mention or describe the work that was done to the Morris Dam valve?
That's what I was asking. Thank you very much for that.
You took Larry's question.
Good evening. Yeah, so we had the Morris valve dam, or the dam valve, not dam. Anyways, it was the original valve down there. It had been leaking. We had the valve upstream shut off to it, so it wasn't going down the creek any longer. It just kept getting worse. So it was a treacherous, interesting job. It's about 100 feet down the side of the hill. They had to lower a 12-inch valve down there. With construction, completed the project. They did it in a day and a half. They had to cut out the catwalk, replace the valve, tow the valve back up. But we do have that valve sitting up at the water plant. And we'll have to find a place for it.
Is that the original one from when the dam was built?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the story on the valve. And it took about a year and a half. I think Ernie was a little leery on doing it because it was a risque job down there, but the guys did it, and I think they complained more about coming up the stairs 15 times, and it's pretty interesting.
I guess it wasn't a valve.
Well, yeah, I'm glad the valve is done.
I would really like to see some of that. Thank you very much for that. The clarifier, it says repair the solid upflow on the clarifier and put it back online. What was that?
Yeah, so the clarifier, we repaired some of it. It had a big weld rip in it from the contraction expansion. It split the seam on the weld. We had that fixed in the winter, and then we ran it for a while, and we were getting a short circuit. So what we found was underneath the stilling well, there's a crack, or not a crack, but it's separated from the concrete, the steel ring. So we have to get in there and mortar both sides of it so it doesn't take the solids directly into the plant.
Okay.
So we're in the process of that and hopefully get it done before the rains come.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, during the replacement of that plug that you accomplished, there was a restriction on the flows into Davis Creek, is that right? I just remembered that was one constituent was concerned that Davis Creek was going dry and thought that there should be releases, but that was a temporary.
Correct, it's back. It's back. We just had to shut it down for a week to get that valve in, and we opened the flows back up.
One comment. I just also wanted to say thank you. I don't know if you had a hand in it, but the posting on the city's Facebook page about the water line replacement, the 60 feet, that was a very successful post, and I did hear from community members who appreciate hearing about those upgrades. So thank you for doing that. That communication to the public really helps us take the hit when people complain. So.
It was an eye-opener.
Yeah, for sure.
But one of those breaks loose, and it can go a long way in the system of discoloration.
Yeah.
So.
That photo really told a story.
Absolutely, yeah.
When I saw the photo, I was like, oh, that's why we have brown water.
Right.
Like,
People need
you
to
could
realize,
get it.
how old some of our infrastructure is, and when we make those replacements, when your crew gets out there, it really makes a huge difference.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why we put it up there. It was reality.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions for me? Anybody?
Nope, you're off the hot
Okay.
All right. Moving on to city council announcements, communications, and reports. I'll start with Vice Mayor Connie.
I feel like my last two meetings I reported on last time, MCOG and museum were both last round, so nothing since then.
All right. Councilmember Stransky?
I was supposed to go to the Chamber of Commerce meeting tonight, but I was here instead, and they have switched it to Tuesday, so I'll be able to go to the next one. But I did send my representative to it, so thank you very much, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yeah, the only thing, it's not much of an update, but I hadn't reached out to Brian yet, but as far as our ad hoc for the tobacco, I need to approach the school district, or not the school district, but the Office of Ed, see if I can get someone to come speak. I had planned on maybe this meeting, but then I'd heard originally this was going to be a heavy meeting, and so I think I need to coordinate with Brian before I do any invites to somebody down there. So that's where I'm at right now, and as we get closer to the election, as far as that proposition, I think that'll also give us a little more clarity too. So.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sharon?
Thank you. The Economic Development Financing Commission met the day after our previous meetings about 2 weeks ago. And there's still some funds available for businesses that want to apply. And I believe they're basically, I think they're grants rather than loans, although loans are also available. So things are going along fine with EDFC. They're also going to pay off all the investors in the Ukiah mill, fiber mill. You know, this was...
The wool mill.
The wool mill, yes.
The wool mill. Who's paying the most?
EDFC has a commitment to all of the investors. Many of people in Willits and throughout the county invested in that. They're all going to be paid off this December. And then EDFC is going to take over what was the remaining balance as a regular loan so that they can, so they can pay off all the investors. So that was good news. And then the following week, the 20th, Solid Waste Management, Mendocino Recycle met, and they keep reassuring me that the contracts are all written and they cover all the things we want them to cover, but I have not seen them yet. So at the next meeting, we will actually, I assume, see them, and there's 3 different contracts in order to basically privatize most of the services for solid waste and hazardous waste management. One of them is with C&S in Ukiah. They are going to take over the actual services. Another contract is regarding the property itself, which is going to be retained by MSWA. And the third contract is with the city of Ukiah to be the administrator of the arrangements. The board of MSWA will continue to oversee the services, but we wanted to make sure we had an administrator who could make sure that the private company C&S is doing everything that they commit to do. But I have been assured, without being able to see it in writing, that they are going to take over all of the services that MSWA used to provide and has been unable to provide due to staffing shortages. That should happen at the beginning of this coming year, January.
When you talk about grants from EDFC, can you elaborate any? What does that mean to the business community when you talk about it?
I meant to look it up so that I could...
Will you bring back more information?
Yeah,
Okay.
it went through the meeting and then I set that aside.
I think that would be something the business community may be interested in if it's definitely a grant opportunity. So getting that word out would be good.
Yeah, and I know that they are in touch with the Chamber of Commerce and, communicating with the businesses directly, but I'll try to get it so that I can report to you too.
Okay. Sounds good. I had a MTA meeting today. We mostly discussed acceptance of our triennial audit, and then MCOG, Loretta was there and she gave a presentation. We talked briefly about the Ukiah Transit Center feasibility study. There's $150,000 in the MCOG budget to study the feasibility of what location would work best for the transit center. And then currently, I don't know if you've seen some of the promotional and information that's gone out in regards to the mobility solution study. It's happening in 5 local communities. For example, for us, our closest neighbors are Brook Trails, Covelo, and Laytonville. And I thought it was interesting that they went around to the different communities and people had an opportunity to speak in person about what their needs were around public transit. But they've received 53 surveys from Brook Trails, 60 from Covelo, and 56 people from Laytonville have already responded online stating that there truly is a need for public transit. What that transportation looks like can vary anywhere from ride-sharing programs to occasional bus service to taxi service. There's lots of different ideas, but right now they're doing a study just trying to figure out what is the need, so that we can tailor the services to meet the needs. And a big topic at our meeting today was the fact that public transportation is not being utilized anywhere near the level it was before, as it was before COVID. We're down about 50% in ridership, which is concerning. And we're having to use some of our 5311 funds, which we usually use to purchase things like a new vehicle or that sort of thing, in order to offset some costs due to the lack of ridership. So for the month of November, we're doing no fees November, so you can ride any fixed route in Mendocino County. So if you want to go over to the coast for the day, or you want to go to Santa Rosa, or you want to ride from Willits to Ukiah, if it's a fixed route where you get on the bus, there are no fees whatsoever to ride the bus. They're hoping that people will come back and ride transit. The fees come into place if you call, say, the senior center and you need a door-to-door drop-off or the dial-a-ride type services.
I was going to ask you, compared, because I was watching the news and I want to say Bay Area transit systems have complained about the same thing, that they're trying to encourage people to ride after COVID. Is that, are they attributing that to people being a little gun-shy to riding because of not wanting to get COVID, or just that I used to not?
That's a good question. It appears that we lost a whole lot of people because of COVID, and they just haven't come back. And so we're trying to figure out, have they not returned because of health concerns? Have they not returned because they found alternative means of transportation? Have their habits changed? Are they just unaware that services are available? So yeah, just trying lots of different things. And that's the hope with the No Fees November, is that people will go out and get used to riding public transit again.
Question, you mentioned that we could go from here to Fort Bragg.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can get on the bus there and come from Fort Bragg back to Willits again?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll ride it in the morning.
Mary, I'll go get you if you get stuck.
Although, Larry, there is only one trip back and forth, so if you're having too much fun on the beach,
you have to come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
You call for a ride.
Yeah, you call Jerry.
Call Jerry. All right. Let's see, do we have any good and welfare?
I'll just throw out, I'll be frying burgers tomorrow at the football game. They're having another home game. I think it's the last one. So I think the JV game starts tomorrow, I think at 5:30, I think. So.
Yeah, the way it started.
Tomorrow?
Yep.
Thursday?
No, sorry, Friday.
Friday.
I apologize, Friday. Yeah, it'll be Friday. Thank you, Dolores. Don't want anybody showing up early for that one. So.
They'll be knocking on your door.
That's right.
Any other good and welfare? Nope.
Well, I attended the McGuire Town Hall that was by Zoom or by YouTube or whatever it was by. But that was, inspiring. That's moving along. And someday we will have a wonderful trail that goes from Willits up to Eureka. So, and the other thing I just wanted to point out, that everybody's aware that 2 weeks from yesterday is Election Day, and make sure you have filled your ballot out and sent it, or do it in person on Election Day, but voting is very important. And we had a wonderful candidates forum a couple weeks ago with 7 of the 8 candidates for the school board and Measure O and Measure P information, so hope people have whatever information they need to vote responsibly.
All right.
Madge, do they have any kind of date that the the Redwood Trail is going to be completed?
It looks like they're beginning the master planning process. That's where they are now, and they're going to have a lot of public information, meetings so people can input. And it sounded like that process is going to go until 2024, I think. So that by 2024 they will have the master plan, and then I assume that the construction will be phased over time. But I don't know that they know that construction.
Is this state sponsored? I mean, they're going to pick up the tab for it?
Yes, it's not locally funded. I believe it's state, and maybe there's some federal money too. I mean, it's, does anybody know that? I don't know that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It also pointed out that I think 80 or 90% of the trail is rustic. So only the urban sections are, you know, like bikeable, paved sections like ours is going to be. But when you get north of that, it's going to be mostly unpaved. But it sounds like it's going to be wonderful and a wonderful tourist attraction for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From the very start of it, yeah.
It'll take a while.
All right, it is 7:46, and I am going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.